My name is Jared McGee, and I'm going to be talking about a topic that I learned about in my Accounting Information Systems course at the University at Albany. And that topic is going to be flowcharts. So, flowcharts are really useful in helping people learn a business process, or any process really. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to a business. And flowcharts are just a very useful way of teaching somebody how a process works, why certain steps are taken within a process, and just it helps them get a thorough understanding of how to do something. So, to give you guys a little bit of background information, I actually did an internship with KeyBank this past summer, and I was in the adjustment operations department. And I had to learn many different processes, and in fact, during that time, there were new processes that were going to be implemented in the future. So I was introduced to Microsoft Visio, which is a tool that helps you create flowcharts. And I had to learn the processes in the adjustment operations department through flowcharts, which is why I was introduced to Microsoft Visio. In fact, I even had to make flowcharts for the new business processes that they were going to use. And those flowcharts helped so much in understanding how to do a process. And there can't be somebody that is constantly standing by your side, teaching you step by step how to do something. Maybe originally someone will do that, but eventually you're going to be left by yourself and you're going to have to know how to do something. And having those flowcharts are very, very useful to refer back to. So I actually had a little bit of knowledge about flowcharts going into accounting information systems this semester, but during the semester I learned a lot more about them, such as the different symbols that are used. I didn't really understand what the symbols meant at the time of my internship, and now that I've taken my accounting information systems course, I have a more thorough understanding of what those symbols actually mean. So, flowcharts, they have different shapes, and each shape has its own reasoning. It has its own meaning, if you will. And there are many different symbols, and they all are generally easy to understand. For example, the oval shape is the start and the end shape. So whenever you see a flowchart, this is going to be the first symbol on the flowchart. It's going to tell you where a business process starts, or any process, excuse me, and where it ends. And this is going to be followed by many different other types of symbols. Another example is a diamond. This is for decision making. So obviously when you come to this point in a flowchart, a person has to decide something, and usually a decision symbol is going to be followed by two lines, with a different path that you can follow and to continue the process with. So you come to a decision, and usually that takes, some thinking. You have to kind of evaluate the current situation that you're in at the time to choose the best path to follow. And then once you make that decision, you then go on through the rest of your process. Another example is the trapezoid symbol. This symbol is a manual processing symbol. So that obviously tells you when you reach a point within a process that involves a manual processing symbol, you're going to be entering something into the computer manually. So that tells you that you're going to have to put in some work manually, as the symbol name implies. Another shape is the rectangle, and it is a computer operating symbol. So obviously there's a computer operation involved in the process. And just for one last symbol, just for an example, is this symbol. This symbol represents a connection between two different pages. Business processes and processes in general, they can get pretty long, and they can continue for pages. I've seen very, very simple flowcharts, and I've seen very complicated flowcharts as well. During my internship, I had to make a flowchart for a new process when it came to doing the credit card payments, for putting through credit card payments when customers would pay off their cards. So because it was a new process and because I was an intern, they didn't want me to make the flowchart too in-depth. They didn't want me to, take it too far. They just wanted a very simple type of flowchart. And the symbols that I just showed you, some of those are symbols that I actually had to use. And like I said, at the time of my internship, I didn't really know what the symbols meant. There was kind of a short description on these symbols in the Microsoft Visio program. But once I got to my accounting information systems course, then I really started to understand what these symbols meant. And I really never thought about flowcharts until my accounting information systems course and how they really do help with helping someone understand a process, basically. In my mind, I thought it would be enough to just list out steps, but having the visuals, the shapes and stuff, they really do help a person understand something way better than if you were to just give a simple list. So understanding flowcharts and learning how to use programs like Microsoft Visio and building your own flowcharts, that's going to be a really beneficial thing. Again, to go back to my internship, that was something that I actually used. Knowing how to make a flowchart was something that I really never expected to have to know how to do. I never really put too much thought into it. But obviously in my internship, I did. And I actually had to make multiple flowcharts. I had to make a flowchart for processing credit card transactions. I had to make a flowchart for another project that I was working on, which was a little bit more extensive than the credit card transactions. There was a bunch of different flowcharts that I was looking at. And once I got to accounting information systems, I kind of realized that this is a very useful skill to know how to use. So just to give you guys a couple of more examples of flowchart symbols, there are symbols for computer operations, like I mentioned earlier, but also input and output of a document report. There are flowchart symbols for the flow of the direction. They have arrows, connection points between the same pages. There's going to be, a point where you come to a page where you might get a little bit confused because flowcharts can get very, very involved. So these points help you understand where, the next step is supposed to go. Display on a video terminal. There's magnetic tape for input or output. There's many different symbols to learn. And obviously it's going to take time. It's going to not be a quick and easy thing to learn all of these different symbols, but knowing how to read a flowchart and even create a flowchart is going to be extremely useful in the future for people's future careers. Business processes, they're constantly evolving. They're, modified in order to make the process more efficient, more effective, whatever the cause may be, or the case may be, excuse me. They are always going to, be useful. Every business most likely has some sort of flowchart that they give to new employees. People are going to need to know how to do the processes of a business. People might have to refer back to them, and it's important to have them saved on a file somewhere for people to refer back to them. They're very, very useful. So that is definitely something that I took away from Accounting 381, Accounting Information Systems at the University at Albany, that I feel like will definitely help me in my future career. Obviously, I've used it in my internship. Learning more about it in my course, it really just shows me the importance of flowcharts.